Homeland Security Kristi Noem with agents today in the Twin Cities as they arrest a man they identify as Tomas Espintapia, an illegal immigrant convicted of robbery and wanted for murder and sexual assault in his home country of Ecuador.
Minneapolis is under a federal siege after a series of events that look like an armed revolt. Leaders who were supposed to protect the public are now being investigated for helping criminals instead.
The city of Minneapolis is filing a declaration after today's shooting to encourage the judge to rule on a temporary restraining order on Monday that would grant us immediate relief and would help stop this operation that has been so harmful to the city of Minneapolis.
From empty daycares to fleets of vans that never move, the level of theft is truly hard to believe. The goal was to use riots to distract everyone from the billions of dollars being stolen every single day. This is the deal that the politicians do not want anyone to know about, and the fallout is just starting. Justice Department strikes. Breaking news has confirmed that the Justice Department is now looking into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for blocking law enforcement efforts. These leaders are at the center of a $10 billion fraud case that has been draining the safety net of the country. They are not just being looked at for their roles in the stealing of public money, but for leading an insurrection from the shadows. This revolt was paid for by the very fraud schemes they are now trying to hide from the public. Overnight, another face-off happened between protesters and federal officers in the city. The situation is getting very tense as federal agents tell the crowds to move back. Progressive leaders were in the city recently to support the protesters and blame the federal government for the chaos. They claim there is no reason for this level of federal force or lawlessness. However, federal agents say this is about more than just safety. It is about a huge web of lies and theft that goes all the way to the top. Protesters were seen hitting the car of an officer who had to show his weapon to get through the crowd. The Department of Homeland Security says 12 people were arrested for attacking law enforcement. One person was even caught breaking into a federal vehicle to steal a rifle. Many people are wondering when the governor knew about this fraud. Reports show he was running for office in 2018 while these crimes were already being investigated. His team did nothing to stop it once they took power. The goal of these street riots is to keep people from looking at the fraud that is robbing the country blind. Now that the governor and mayor are being investigated for blocking agents, they are also being accused of lying to law enforcement. The public is learning about billions of dollars stolen from systems meant to help them. This money was spent on fancy vacations by scammers who still run fake businesses today. These same leaders were not bothering to check on empty daycares that were supposed to be full of kids. Now the tables have turned and those who did not do their jobs are being watched closely. This could not have happened at a worse time for those planning a big change in how the country works. This plan has three main parts. First, there are the mobs attacking agents in the streets. These groups get their money from the second part, which is the fraud system. This system steals from government programs to pay for the riots. The leaders who support these mobs make up the third part. This group is in a lot of trouble because more types of fraud are being found every day. For starters, a group of vans was found sitting in a parking lot for 8 months without moving a single inch. These vans were supposed to be driving patients and children around, but they just sat there while the owners collected government money. The money used for these riots comes from a deep well of stolen funds. Fraud industrial complex. Things get even crazier when you look at how deep the theft goes in Minnesota. It is not just about empty daycares or fake transport companies anymore. Now there is news about medical fraud and even ghost students. People are stealing federal grants by using fake names to enroll in colleges. These students never go to a single class, but they keep the grant money for themselves. It seems like every single thing the government pays for is getting robbed. When mobs are seen on the street, a big question comes up about what this is really about. People are wondering if the protesters are actually mad about laws or if they are just protecting the scammers. One leader claims that the federal presence is about political payback, but she might be wrong about the reasons. The real issue is that one political party is gaining power from the stealing of money across the country. This congresswoman makes $170,000 a year, but her total wealth is over $30 million. Her husband owns a very large investment firm in the state. People want to know where all that money came from. She was the one who helped pass the bill to start the feeding program that lost $250 million to fraud. The idea that politicians do not gain from the schemes they support is hard to believe. There are claims that the governor only won his election because he supported scammers who then helped him get votes. These scammers became rich and then used their power to keep the governor in office. Now the public is seeing wealth grow in a way that regular people can never imagine. The people getting rich off this are the same ones saying the federal government is the problem. They are trying to protect each other now that the truth is coming out. The governor says he is on the right side of history, but people on the wrong side usually say that. Other members of Congress are also showing up to support this movement. There need to be more investigations into these groups. The public is tired of seeing no leaders go to jail for fraud. This stolen money pays for scammers who then give money back to the politicians to keep them in power. This creates a system that stays in place for a long time. Reports of this fraud have been around since 2009, but nothing was done to stop it. The governor knew from the start because there were court cases happening while he was running for office. By doing nothing, he allowed the scammers to keep stealing. The scammers obviously want the person who lets them steal to stay in charge. Photos show the governor hanging out with people who were scamming the social safety net. This shows that the scammers have a lot of influence over who runs the state. They cannot get away with this without help from politicians who are willing to look the other way. The connection between the stolen billions and the street violence is becoming impossible to ignore. Congresswoman under fire. The Department of Justice is looking into a conspiracy to stop federal officers from doing their work. When a governor or a mayor tells citizens to call 911 on federal agents, it is very close to a crime. The governor even called federal work an occupation, which makes it sound like an illegal invasion. Telling people they live in an occupied state is like telling them to go out and fight. This is how people are being pushed to take part in the chaos. Tensions are very high as tear gas is used in the streets of Minneapolis. Protesters are taking their anger out on federal buildings and vehicles. Federal agents are now pushing back against the lawlessness and arresting people in the mobs. One man was caught stealing a rifle and armor from a federal vehicle. He was identified as a member of a known street gang. This does not look like a peaceful protest at all. It looks like gang members are using the confusion to steal weapons and cause more harm. The three parts of this power system are working together. The leaders are paid by the scammers and protected by the mobs. To keep their power, the leaders have to block federal agents as much as they can. This is why the investigation is so important. When you add in new laws that make crimes less serious, you get a never-ending cycle of violence. People get arrested and then released right away to go back to the streets. This creates a situation that normal people cannot handle. The public is being told that they are under attack to keep them from voting for the other side. This radicalizes people and makes them support the scammers. Local lawmakers who are not part of this scheme are the ones trying to find the truth. They are not afraid of the mobs because they do not gain anything from the theft. This is a story of a government that allows fraud because it helps them stay in power. That is why riots are happening in many parts of the country. Armies of leaders are protecting each other because they know the same thing is happening in other states. No one is speaking out against it because they are all involved. They just blame the federal agents for everything that goes wrong. This is being done to keep people from seeing the truth about the money. The fear of losing power is driving these leaders to take extreme risks against the federal government. Minnesota's darkest hour. When we look at the street actions happening in our cities right now, it is easy to think they are just random outbursts of anger or unplanned moments of frustration. However, if we take a moment to look more closely at the logic behind this chaos, a much more calculated picture begins to emerge. The real goal of these disruptions is not just to make a statement, but to create a level of fear and disorder so high that a real deep investigation into the truth becomes impossible. This is a classic distraction technique. When there is chaos in the streets and fires are burning, the police and the courts are forced to focus all their energy on stopping the immediate danger. They have to play defense against the mob instead of sitting down in a quiet office to look at the books and see where the public money actually went. This creates a perfect shield for those who have been stealing from the people for years. Some observers argue that the president is simply trying to use his federal power to take over cities that did not vote for him in the last election. But when you examine the facts, that is not what is actually happening. The truth is that the federal government possesses a massive amount of investigative power, and this power is what truly scares the leaders of these cities. These local officials are not worried about losing their autonomy. They are worried that if federal agents step in and start asking the right questions, all of their carefully hidden secrets will finally come out into the light. The fear we see from city leaders is not a fear for the safety of their citizens, but a fear of exposure and the legal consequences that come with it. This brings us to the logic of how the National Guard is being used. Right now, these soldiers are walking the streets of American cities, and it is important to understand the power struggle behind their presence. Under normal circumstances, the National Guard answers to the governor of the state, not the president. The federal government used a very smart and calculated plan to make this deployment happen. By publicly announcing that they were ready to move in and take total control themselves, federal leaders forced the governor to make a very difficult choice. He had to act first and send in his own troops just to keep his own power from being taken away. This put the governor in a terrible position because he was forced to send the Guard to stop and control the very same groups of people he used to support and protect. This strategy created a massive problem for the people currently in power. First, the protesters and activists are now incredibly angry at the governor because they feel he has turned his back on them and betrayed their cause. Second, because of this, the governor is quickly losing the support of the very people who helped him get elected in the first place. In the end, the federal government successfully forced the state government to clean up its own mess, all while making the local leaders look weak and divided. It was a move that exposed the cracks in the local political system. The people who are accused of this massive financial fraud almost always support one specific political party. They do not give money to the other side of the aisle. This is because these groups and nonprofits are essential tools for winning elections in certain states. They help organize voters and move money where it needs to go. If the police were to finish a real investigation into the fraud and reveal the truth about how the money was stolen, it would cause permanent damage to the political party that is currently in charge. Because of this, the people running the government had a massive reason to hide the stealing for many years. They weren't just being lazy, they were protecting their own path to staying in power. Could this level of corruption be happening in your hometown right now without anyone knowing? Let us know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe for more.